Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's guest is me, Erin Power. Just like last week, this week we're continuing with our plan to catch up with your favorite health coaching podcast hosts, and this time it's my turn. So I'll share some of the experiences I had in the past year or so, including taking on way too many clients, and the incredibly enriching experience I've had teaching an advanced health coaching course to over 100 students in the last couple of years, dozens of whom have gone on to become board certified health coaches. By accident, Laura and I get into some pretty important health coaching wisdom in this conversation, so check it out. Let me tell you quickly about something we've recently created that we're really excited about. My Primal Coach is a convenient app-based health coaching program. It delivers daily lessons, actionable tips, and provides personal one-on-one coaching to help you stay on track and reach your goals. It's developed and delivered by the team behind Primal Health Coach Institute. We are experts in behavior change, and we understand how to get clients the results they desire. Our mission with My Primal Coach is the same as our mission with Primal Health Coach Institute, to help 100 million people reclaim health and wellness through education and coaching. So check it out for yourself at myprimalcoach.com. We're excited to see who's listening out there, so take a screen grab of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And don't forget, you can always find the show notes for this episode and any other episode of Health Coach Radio at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. With that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Please welcome today's guest, me, Erin Power.
I have the pleasure of interviewing my ride or die, my partner in crime for the last 3 years here on Health Coach Radio. Erin Power's in the house. How are you, doll?
I'm great. Warm, toasty. Looking forward to talking about myself for an hour. Not.
Oh, come on. You got so many just really cool things happening for you last year that I think, look, give yourself credit for it, marinate in it and celebrate it and let other people learn from you. That's what this whole podcast is about, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, we interviewed each other 3 years ago that I'm sure people following this podcast now likely never went back to listen to. So I think it's helpful to kind of start with a little bit of an origin story about Erin, and then we'll dig into kind of what happened over the last couple of years for you and sort of where you're headed.
Cool. So backstory real quick. I've been in the fitness industry for 27 years officially. I started when I was 18 years old as a trainer and a group fitness instructor. And concurrent to that, I also had a full-time career in marketing and advertising and communications. And that was sort of my professional career. And I was exercising all the time, like 6 hours a day. I'm not even exaggerating, 6 hours a day of exercise. And at some point that stopped working. That never works. Let's just put that out there. That's not a good idea. Just don't do that. But it stopped working in the sense that I was exhausted, sore, hungry, and honestly getting heavier, which didn't make sense, right? So my main struggle at that point was my absolute lack of energy. And I described it as being like checked out of life. It wasn't just that I was kind of tired, which would make sense for somebody who's exercising 6 hours a day, but I was like, I had nothing to give. I had no mental energy. I was in my bones, fatigued, literally falling asleep behind the wheel of my car, falling asleep in meetings at work. Like that to me, that was a symptom that took me to the doctor. It was like, what is going on? I'm 30. I don't think I was 30. Yeah, I was 30 years old, 32, early 30s. And the doctor ran some blood work. Turns out I was pre-diabetic. I didn't know what that meant. It didn't make sense. I knew enough about diabetes to think like, that doesn't make sense. I don't eat junk food. I exercise all the time. I'm not the kind of person that becomes diabetic. What's going on? So that kind of thing makes you angry because it doesn't make sense. It's like, I did everything right. And what is happening? So when I seek to learn about diabetes, prediabetes, I learned a heck of a lot about how the body uses fuel that the fitness industry never told people. I
Right.
have so much like, I'm very apologetic on behalf of what the fitness industry told people about fuel. I grovel every day. I'm sorry we told you that. Anyway,
They're still telling people that.
I know. And it's
So,
like, can we just respect the elegance of it? There's no respect for the elegance of the human body. So I really got into the weeds of that. Like, how does this human body use fuel? Got really excited about it, fixed myself, and wanted to start helping fix other people. I went to school to get a registered holistic nutritionist designation because I thought that sounded, I don't know, viable or
yeah.
cool, or I don't know. I went to holistic nutrition school. It was okay. It was pretty good. I learned a lot about cellular biology and nutritional pathology, and I learned a lot about the chakras and a lot about plant-based eating in holistic school. That's not how I was eating. That's not how I was engaging with health. I had taken on more of an ancestral approach because to me, that's where I got the understanding of how the human body uses fuel. I mean, you look back to how we were literally designed, how we evolved and moved. Anyways, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but suffice it to say, the sort of the tone of education I got at this holistic nutrition school wasn't super aligned with how I ate or lived or moved. So I took some other certifications as well, more in the ancestral health space. So I'm doing life now as a nutritionist, which is what I could call myself. Doing like nutritionist stuff, like meal plans and, telling people what to do and how much of what to eat, and not loving it because that doesn't really work. It only works for as long as people are going to work it. They're only going to pay attention for as long as they're paying attention. When they stop paying attention, they have no idea what to do. So it became really clear to me early on that telling people about nutrition wasn't helping anybody.
Right.
Instead, folks needed to be met where they're at, coached through their, I'm going to use the phrase lived experience again, because it's my favorite thing, but it's like, what are your preferences? What are your likes and dislikes? What's your schedule? What's going on in your head, in your heart? How can I meet you there and help you to engage in behavior change and food and lifestyle change that seems like it matters to you in a way that works for you? So that's coaching. And I didn't learn that in nutrition school at all, not even a little bit. So mercifully got connected with Primal Health Coach Institute, which when we took the course was mostly just sort of a nutritional personal interest course, but the school had an appetite to build out health coaching education. And I was able to come on board and help build that out, which has been really a great education for me as a coach, because learning the art and science of coaching from the perspective of teaching it to people, teaching it to aspiring health coaches, has made me a way better coach. And I'm delighted to say I never make a meal plan. You couldn't pay me. And gun to my head, I don't know how many grams of whatever I'm eating, and I don't want to. And that's where I'm at.
Oh my gosh. So that's where you're at from the standpoint of philosophy and how you view what you do. But you've had a banner year in 2021, just in your own private practice. Tell us about that.
I did. Yeah, I work with folks one-on-one predominantly, and I also run 2 group programs a year. So the one-on-one practice is, first of all, my favorite. I would encourage every health coach listening to, if you haven't already, please start thinking about how you would work with people one-on-one. I just think it's a really crucial business development exercise for everybody to go through. What would that programming look like, in terms of like the logistics? How do you deliver it? Who is this person you're helping? What problem are you solving? You don't have to have it all figured out, but at least have those, start to massage around the idea of having like a methodology. Like, what's your methodology? What's the, for me, it's the Eat Simple methodology, right? Eat Simple is my company. And my one-on-one program is called 8 Weeks to Effortless. It's designed to get you kind of metabolically flexible in 8 weeks so that you can achieve an effortless relationship with food. And then lots of other cool metabolic things come downstream from that as well, like improved energy, which was always my number one thing, mental clarity, body fat loss, all that great, cool metabolic stuff. So that's an 8-week program. And generally I feel comfortable when I have 8 people at a time working through the 8-week program, because those folks are getting on the phone with me once a week for 30 minutes to an hour for their coaching conversation, which is client led. Like, the client tells me what we're talking about. So there's a lot of a lot of mental bandwidth required, to be honest with you, to be a client-led coach, because you don't get to declare the narrative, your client does. So you have to be ready to just like move with them. So tons of mental energy. So 8 clients at a time is kind of my happy place. If you do the math on that, if I have 8 clients at a time, then basically I'm enrolling 4 clients a month. Is that right? I think that's right. 4 clients a month. That's, for me, I have a full-time career with Primal Health Coach Institute, which I love. This is truly a side hustle, which I also love. Anyway, it ended up being full-time this year by accident. I was carrying between 12 and 15 up to 20 clients at a time for most of the year. When I went through, I actually just ran through and ran a report. I had 64 one-on-one clients this year, which is significantly more. That's 20 or so, 25 more than I normally would take on. Plus I ran my 2 group programs and some other really busy stuff that happened this year. And so, to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. They were all amazing people. We had great results. I did wring myself dry to give these folks a good experience. It was too much. It is possible to have too many clients. And I think that I did. I think if I didn't have a full-time job, that would have been breezy, but you have to just look at the big picture of everything you've got going on. I think that's really important to do too. What's interesting is like a lot of coaches who get started, I know you hear this a lot. They want to know where all the clients are.
Right.
Where's all these clients? Like, I need a big niche. I need a big pool of clients to choose from. It's like, you don't need a lot. Like 10 would be a good number to start with. 20 might be nice. It gets overwhelming pretty quickly, to be honest with you, just to put that out there.
Absolutely. Even if the clients that you're working with are all relatively similar because they're part of the same niche, they're still all individuals. So I'm curious, it says that it ended up being full-time on accident is what I heard you say. Can you say more about that? Like, how did that happen? Because the question I get from people on the phone, to your point, is how do I find clients? And the way I try to reframe that is, no, we just need clients to find you.
Yes.
And how do you do that? So I would love for you to share how you do that and how this sort of accidentally grew beyond your bandwidth.
Yeah, I should clarify, the accidental part was the part where I said yes to everybody. Right. So the accidental part was I forgot to cap myself. The clients kept rolling in. I just kept taking them. So, but it wasn't by accident that they rolled in at such an alarming rate. That was intentional. That was bricks that I laid years ago. The bricks that I laid years ago, I don't know, built up to what this year ended up being, right? What I mean by that is clarity of messaging. Right around 4 or 5 years ago, I got very clear on the one thing I like helping people do, which is this metabolic flexibility stuff. That's it. That's all. I got very clear on what I don't want to help people do, which is drop weight in time for their daughter's wedding or like squeeze into their skinny jeans for their high school reunion. Nothing about that is exciting to me at all. Right. When I started getting really clear about what I absolutely do, what I absolutely don't do, and then just show up in various content marketing spaces espousing that. And by the way, I'm only on Instagram for the most part. Like I just haven't really branched out to other social platforms because I don't want to. I just don't want to.
We don't need to.
But
clearly,
I don't think you need to. Just because, as boring as this advice is, consistently showing up with the same messaging, doubling down on it, not wavering from it. Pretty soon people are like, Erin's the person to go to if you want this thing. And for whatever reason, I don't know, call it a pandemic thing. This year, people were really buying what I was selling, which is, hey, let's just fix your relationship with food so you don't have to waste mental energy obsessing about it 1 minute longer in your precious life, because life is too damn short. Let's stop. So even despite the fact that I've kind of taken away a lot of the weight loss messaging, because that got confusing for people, to be honest with you. I think anybody who's in the weight loss space, get really clear about about what your promises and your guarantees are, because a weight loss client is looking for some kind of guarantee that I believe is not possible to guarantee. I believe it's impossible to guarantee weight loss. But anyway, so when I stripped that messaging away, I thought, it's scary because you think that's what people want. That's what everyone wants. But I didn't want to do it. And so as soon as I got crystal clear on what I did and did not want to do, suddenly my message was absolutely clearly resonating with the people that I wanted it to resonate with, and they showed up. So it wasn't an accident. It was the result of intentional clarity around messaging. And just to close the loop on the consistency piece, if you do happen to find my Instagram profile, you'll find that it's highly inconsistent. I will go a month without posting, and then I'll post 3 times in one day, and then I'm not in there again for 2 weeks. Like, I'm not consistent, but the message is. So just so you know, you don't have to be, slaying your Instagram every single day, but just get super clear on what you do.
So I'm curious when you said, so I would love an example, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you could share an example of how maybe it's kind of stripping away that weight loss message, like how did your messaging change? Can you give me an example of maybe something you would have posted a couple of years ago compared to now?
Well, I can. So I can tell you that my Instagram bio, for example, or a bio that I might share if I were going on a podcast or being featured on a radio show, which also happened this year. The bio used to say something to the effect, something cute like, hey, if you're feeling fluffy, foggy, and fatigued, that's your metabolism talking, and I can help you fix it, which is true. I do believe that's true. Like, from the perspective of metabolism, it's the fueling system of the body. So if you are carrying extra body fat that you just can't get rid of, there's a good chance that's a fuel problem. Like, it is a fuel. It literally is a fuel problem. So it really is a metabolic thing. But there's a lot more to it, though. There's a lot more to fat loss in terms of how realistic are you about your goals? How honest are you being about your compliance? Like, what are you prepared to, like, it's a big deal. I think fat loss is it needs to be pretty focused on for it to happen with any appreciable speed, which is what everybody wants. So not only do people want to lose weight, but they want to lose it immediately.
Right.
So there's no patience in that game. And I don't offer that. So I soon realized that if I put the fluffy piece in there, fluffy, foggy, and fatigued, now I'm speaking to weight loss. Now people are like, well, how soon can I get this off? And my answer is, I don't know.
Right.
That's not a satisfying answer for a weight loss client. If I was a weight loss client and my weight loss health coach said, I don't know, might take 6 months, might take a year, might be 2 years. It doesn't really sell.
Right.
So I just stopped talking about it. I just stopped talking about weight loss at all. I talk about fuel, how the body uses fuel. People can make that connection. Like, well, this fat that's on my body is fuel. Erin's the girl who gets fuel working for you. So you can have mental clarity, so you can have energy, so you can just effortlessly coexist with food without feeling like you're hangry and like crazed all the time. So I don't have to talk about fat loss. People can figure out that maybe if I get this stuff working for me, maybe I'll have the energy to exercise and fat loss will come, because I don't currently have the energy. I'm falling asleep as soon as I get home from work. Or maybe if I'm not always obsessed about food, I won't be raiding the pantry every night after the kids go to bed. Like, they can put the pieces together, that fat loss will come eventually. And I do speak to that. It's like, hey, as a cool downstream effect of everything we're going to do here, your body might start liberating fat. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be a cool side effect? And people can kind of get on board with that. I'm getting a lot of folks who are like, I just want to feel better about food.
Yeah.
So people want that.
I just think that's such an important lesson to all coaches listening, that you will get back to you what you put out there. And if you're finding that you're attracting the wrong client, you got to look at your messaging. What is it about what you're saying that's attracting somebody other than who you're sort of seeking to help? I just think that's such an important lesson. Look, sometimes that stuff's going to happen. This happens through referral, right? When a lot of your business is referral based, and you get people that refer you, people that really aren't in your wheelhouse or what have you. But at the end of the day, I just love that message. So I would imagine that by removing this from your messaging and removing this from what you talk about, it had to have impacted your program and how you built your program for people. And so can you talk a little bit about how, first of all, did that change how you deliver your material, your programming, and if so, how?
Yeah. Nothing changed because I think my programming speaks to metabolism broadly. So my program is built on a learning management, system. It's a course that if you're my one-on-one client or self-guided client, you get enrolled in the same course. But the thing is, like, the tenets of metabolism are what they are. Here's how the human body uses fuel, period. You can't really argue with it. It's biochemistry, like, it's pretty black and white. But what has changed is how I talk about it, but also how I here's an example. I had a discovery call that showed up in my calendar last week. So these just show up in calendar. People will book calls with me, and this one showed up, and the messaging was, I need to lose 30 pounds. I'm tired of being fat. I want to be thin by summer. That was the messaging of this discovery form, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. When I got on the phone with this person, this is interesting. I got on the phone with her and I was prepared to shut her down. I was like, don't want to work with this person. But in going through this process of discovery, she kind of wrote that in a fit of like emotion. But really what she did want was to understand how to eat to support her body. She had some bloating. She had some autoimmune kind of symptoms bubbling up, some gut health stuff that was kind of making itself known on the discovery call. Terrible sleep, really poorly managed stress. She had a lot of stuff going on that was undoubtedly contributing to her having the stubborn fat on her body. But the fat was the physical manifestation she wanted to get rid of, but all the stuff she really wanted to fix was more in my wheelhouse. So I was grateful to have gone on the call with her and been, somehow I scrounged up some open-mindedness because I had been prepared to just like shut her down immediately. But it turns out by coaching her in the discovery call, I got to what her intrinsic goals and motivators were, which actually wasn't fat loss. And she even said on the call, if I lost weight, that'd be great, but I just need to feel better. And I hear that so many times. And the program that I wrote, honestly, that's the backbone of it. You're going to feel amazing. And that's nebulous, but you know what it feels like. Like, you know what it feels like to feel amazing when you've gone so long not feeling amazing. It's hard to articulate, but the backbone of my programming is you'll feel amazing. You will check back into life. You're going to get all your mental energy back from obsessing about stupid diet culture stuff. And as a cool side effect, once your metabolism's working, it probably will just start letting go of fat, just not quickly, but it will. So the program never changed. But what does change is who I work with. If I get on that discovery call and the commentary is all about fat loss, all about getting into the smaller jeans by a certain deadline, I will not work with that client. Not because I'm being snarky, but because I don't have the solution for that client. I just don't. I don't have the fast fat loss solution. And I don't have the solution for somebody for whom that's the only thing they care about. There's a million other coaches that will do that. But I know I don't have the solution to that problem. And I don't really want to do it. That's the other thing.
Well, and if you just think about your own background too, and just how the pursuit of that made you feel going forward. I mean, and I look, there are plenty of people that are working in that space. They do not need another one. What we need are more people like you that are coaching around the antithesis of that, which is, and look, if you think about sort of fat loss and the desire for weight loss, for most people, what they're looking for is the emotional and how, like, the benefit of what that fat loss, how that fat loss makes them feel, the perception that, this particular weight is making me unhappy because, or I don't feel well because, when really the weight is a symptom. And when you can unravel that for people, it's like a game changer. And so you've found yourself, like, you've hit a nerve this year because of all the effort and the messaging and the consistency over the last several years. And it's finally struck gold. And now you find yourself in a position where these are all people that you legitimately know you can help now, but now it's just too much to the point where it's not fun anymore. So what's the solution then? Do you scale back and help fewer people, or are you going to look to scale up somehow to be able to, is that what this group program does? There's a couple ways we can go here about, how you plan to handle this.
How I plan to handle it is Excellent question, because right now it's that predictable lull, right? This is the predictable lull. Not a lot of discovery calls rolling in right now, because it's December and that probably will pick up. I probably have to think about this in time for, the big spike in January, February. But I think the way forward for me, I'm not at this point where I'm prepared to like train a co-coach. And that's just a personal, I guess, log jam that I just have. For example, when I hire a coach, like I've hired a few coaches this year. And when I hire a coach, it's because I want to work with them. I don't want to work with somebody who trained under them. I'm sorry. Like I want to work with the person I want to work with. And even I've seen there's people in my space, in my health coaching space, that are kind of at the next level, running really successful businesses, doing similar stuff to what I do. And they have co-coaches coaching underneath them. I'm not ready for that yet. I don't know what that is. I'm not ready to, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Something about the customer experience where I think people want to work with the person they want to work with and not, so I'm not there. So I think then with that in mind, I'm not willing to hire help in to handle a bigger client load. It's on me. I need to be even more intentional about referring out to other coaches that I know. And I have a huge network of peers, mercifully, and saying no to more people or backburnering them, saying, hey, my roster's full right now. I'm going to have an opening in 6 weeks. Can you hang out till then? And that's hard to do because we are service-based professionals, heart-centered service-based professionals. We want to help everybody all the time. But I'm just here to say, like, there's a point where it does stop being fun. Not that it wasn't fun. It's just that it was so much. It just was so much. And health coaching is inherently a very emotionally, physically, spiritually taxing profession. So imagine if you had 10 coaching calls in a given day. That's far more than I wanted, even though each coaching call is, let's call it 30 minutes. And that's technically only 5 hours of work. That's a hard 5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all those little snippets of time in between your calls, which aren't productive. It's not productive because you got to wait for your next call. So as a productivity nerd, it wasn't great. I need to hold to my own roster size. I didn't do that this year. And it was an interesting experiment. Interesting to see what happens if you let the roster expand indefinitely. And I didn't like it. And that's, your mileage may vary, but I didn't like it. I like having a tight roster where I know I have the capacity to really, really be present with these souls that are in my care.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question that perhaps a business coach might ask you, which is, one way to perhaps manage that flow is perhaps increasing your prices.
Oh, I just did that. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. I just did that. Okay. This actually goes back to, here's one thing I did. Thank you for bringing this up because I completely blanked on this because it just literally just happened. So I was touching a second ago on how the folks who want fast fat loss, but I also know how to help people lose fat as long as they don't want it fast.
Right.
We good. We good. If you're willing to hang in for a while, we can totally do that. And it's going to be so easy, but it's not going to happen in 8 weeks, which is the duration of my current program. In 8 weeks, metabolic flexibility, effortless relationship with food, I guarantee it, but not fat loss. Hell no. But give me 6 months and we can get some fat moving. Not, we can. I feel confident I can get like 30 to 40 pounds off somebody in 6 months. I can honestly say that. So this just happened. This is so crazy. Last week I had a discovery call with the person who wanted fat loss was the goal. And she also had it great. I was really connecting with her. Like, she was my exact ideal client and she wanted fat loss. And I said, what if it took 6 months to get that moving for you? She's like, great, let's do it. 6 months, I'm in. This is the first time I've ever sold a 6-month program. And I just invented it. Oh, I just invented it on the phone with this person. I didn't have anything ready. So the way it's going to go now is you still get the 8-week, let's call it the immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And then but then I'm just tacking 4 additional months on where we just keep with the coaching calls. The education happens in the first 8 weeks and metabolic stuff happens in the first eight weeks. But then the inherent practicing that's inherent in sustainable fat loss happens over the course of the next 4 months. And that's a larger price point. And she went for it. So I was like, oh, I guess I just raised my prices. I guess I just invented a new program. Okay. And I'm pretty excited about it because now I have somewhere to put people who are looking for fat loss. And now I have another talking point. So if you get on the phone with me and you're like, I need to lose fat, it's like, great, you're looking at 6 months. And they're like, no, I need it faster. I'm like, well, it's 6 months.
Yeah. You know, what I love about that is the ability for you to stay true and authentic to you and what you believe in and your methodology and your approach and what you really want to do, and being able to help more people, but being compensated appropriately for it as well, and not being afraid to do that. Congratulations. And, what I will tell you is the 6 month, I 100% agree with you that more than half of my clients, so I typically sign people up for 12 weeks, about 3 months. More than half of them sign up for another 12 weeks. So on average, more than half of my clients end up in a 6 month program. I just don't necessarily sell that out of the gate right away. But I love the way you framed that in that call.
Well, the thing is, like, to your point, the way I've framed it previously was, okay, we work together for 8 weeks. Around the week 7 mark, we're going to check in and see if you're good to go. And if you're not, we're going to keep going. And we're going to do this sort of month-to-month retainer. But nobody ever took me up on that because I was, the way I was articulating it was, this is an 8-week program. You know what I mean? And so people were like, oh, I'm done at the end of 8 weeks. Now it's just a small change in language. It's exactly the same rollout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's still 8 weeks immersion and then month to month after that. But now I'm saying it's 6 months. Like, I want your commitment for 6 months. I need your commitment for 6 months.
So I'm wondering, from a marketing standpoint, if that 8-week program is your immersion sort of like jumpstart program, but you have a whole other fat loss program that's actually 6 months long, and you can legitimately market 2 programs, even though fundamentally the methodology, everything's the same. That's
what I'm going to do, 100%. In fact, that 8-week program is now going to be marketed in 3 different ways, because its original form, which is the 8 weeks to effortless coached relationship for 8 weeks to achieve metabolic flexibility and effortless relationship with food. Then there's the DIY course, which is a fraction of the price, and you just go through the course on your own. I strongly encourage coaches to do that. And then on the other end, or the big 6-month mentorship, metabolic mentorship is what I think I'm calling it. But it's the exact same program utilized in 3 different ways for 3 different people. And it's interesting because, like, this is the deal. I will shout this from the rooftops, and I think I have already on this conversation. This is why you need a methodology. Create a program that's yours, because you can use it in so many different ways. Because then what I teach in my course, I've pulled out bits and pieces of it and deliver that in a 4th format, which is my group program I run twice a year, which is the same information, just delivered in a different way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm a staunch advocate for programming, which is not to say, as a coach starting out, that you need to just, shut the door to your office and program in isolation. You have to do this with your clients. So I would really encourage coaches, like, start with an idea of what you want to do. Start with figure out where you want to start with people, and then build your program with your clients as you go. But eventually you get to a point where the program is set. This is what it is now. I've got curriculum. It hasn't really changed. It's predictable. Start the work of building something like that now. It pays off immensely.
Just because you've got a curriculum and a program, I mean, there have to be core tenets that you believe are fundamentally true for every single person you're going to serve based on your niche, right? But it's this where the magic happens is in these individual sessions where you can work with people one-on-one. I heard you say the client tells me what we're talking about from session to session. I wrote that down in particular because I wanted to come back to it, because this is, I think, the biggest disconnect for most coaches. And I also think it's the hardest to grasp for people that come to coaching from a profession in which they were always the expert, where they've got to flip the tables. So I don't even want to frame it. I just want you to tell me more about that statement and kind of what that feels like in every session?
I'll tell you from the perspective of having taught our level 2 advanced certification course, which is another thing I get to do. I'm so lucky. That lights me up. I get so energized by teaching this level 2 course. So this is an advanced coaching course that we teach at our school. It is purely coaching. It has nothing to do with business, has nothing to do with nutrition. It is purely a 12-week deep dive into the art and science of coaching. It's a live taught class. I think we put probably, I'm blanking on the math, maybe 110 or 120 people through it this year in 2 different cohorts. Here's an example. We teach this idea, not this idea, we teach the concept of motivational interviewing, active listening, the client-led coaching conversation. This is this course. Students in the course have to practice this a lot. There's tons of hands-on coaching practice because literally the only way you're going to learn it, unfortunately, is by actually speaking it out of your talking mouth hole and practicing it, like getting that muscle memory. We had, in the last cohort, which just wrapped up today, actually, one of the coaching conversations that was submitted to me for grading was a pretty new coach, because everybody's pretty new. And the client he was talking with showed up to the session, and then the coach said, "What would you like to get out of this session today?" So this is about asking for the intention. What would feel really good for you to get out of this session today? And the client said, "Well, I'm really struggling with managing my stress." Okay, so that's a pretty common health coaching concern. You hear that a lot. As the coach continued to ask questions, listen actively, reflect back, summarize, like all of these motivational interviewing techniques, it came out that this client's main concern was their job and they needed to leave it. This coach is not a career coach. That's not his niche. Right. And talked to this client, this professional executive guy, through what would it mean, how would you leave your job? What would that look like? What would you have to put in place? The client showed up wanting to talk about leaving his job with his health coach. And the health coach coached him perfectly through it. The health guy doesn't know how to leave a corporate executive job, but he knows how to ask questions. He knows how to listen. He knows how to reflect back. He knows how to pull the knowledge that's inherently inside of the client out. It was the most perfect example of a coaching conversation. And then one other example I'll give is that, and this is wild to me. So as most people listening probably know, is that we subscribe to this ancestral health model. Not everybody in the world has to, but we do. Yep. And the coaches that I'm training also do. One of the conversations that I listened to was a ancestral health coach and a real client who came to the conversation looking for, she wants to lose weight. That was not her intention for the session, because if a client comes to a session and say, what's your intention for today's session? Well, I want to lose weight. That's not a good session intention. So you have to kind of pull it back, and that through coaching, you can do that. So what it turned out was this person wanted to work on breakfasts. I need to have some kind of breakfast. It's going to set me up for the day with more well-managed appetite and cravings. So they're working on protein. And the coach said, well, tell me some protein ideas that you think of for breakfast. And it was like oatmeal, peanut butter, low-fat yogurt. And my mind was blown. And the coach said, do you mind if I make a few suggestions? And the client said, sure. And he said, how about eggs? And this client said, well, no, eggs are bad for you. And my mind was blown, because I was like, no, they're not. We know that they're not bad for you. I thought everybody knew that, but this client really didn't know. So for an ancestral health coach, or anybody who knows that eggs are not bad for you, it's very hard to hold back from dogmatically shouting about how healthy eggs are. This coach did not. Tell me what you know about the health risks of eggs, the coach said. And the client was like, well, I don't really know anything, but I just heard it somewhere. So there's one line item on our grading rubric. I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but hear me out. On our grading rubric that I use to grade these sessions, there's one line, there's 50 different competencies these guys have to hit, but one of them is coaches' biases are imperceptible. Coaches' biases are imperceptible. To me, that line encapsulates what the health coaching conversation, health coaching relationship is. You are simply a conduit to pull out from the client what they need, what they know, what they can do, what they're willing to do, what they want to do, what they want. Like we teach a little bit. Absolutely. We do. We have to show up with some knowledge, but truly we're not here to convince anybody of anything. Everything they know is somewhere in them. And that goes back to this idea of self-efficacy and autonomy, which is the ultimate end goal of a coaching relationship. The client knows what to do, how to do it. They have the resources to do it, the knowledge. There's no barriers. There's high confidence. That's what we're trying to get out of a coaching relationship. That was a long answer. And I don't even know if
well, I think it's fantastic examples of what I was asking for, right? So, and here's a couple of things that I took away from both of those examples. The first one being this, you said this coach knows nothing about what it takes to leave a career, yet had a phenomenally successful session. So this right there, for all you coaches listening that are fearful that you don't know enough, bullshit. You don't have to know a lot. All you have to do is create space, be the conduit, ask questions. The client at the end of the day knows what they're ready for based on where they are, what the next logical step might be. It's almost like the more we know, the more dangerous it is, because we're inclined to try to insert that into the conversation instead of letting the client be like, I wonder what would happen if I tried this.
The last thing the health world, the health consumer needs is more learned helplessness.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the last thing we need is to plow these folks with more information. They're done.
Yeah.
We got to flip the focus on implementation, and we have to make it client-centered.
You know, and the second conversation, what comes to mind for me, the way he phrased, well, what is it about eggs that you think are unhealthy, or what do you think are unhealthy about eggs? I think we could take that about just about anything.
Yes.
A client expresses, either whether they think something is healthy or whether they think it's unhealthy, is to ask that question. Awesome. Okay, so educate me for a minute. Tell me a little bit about why you think running 3 miles a day every single day is healthy. Or tell me why are you worried about cholesterol? What is it about cholesterol that has you concerned? What do you know? What do you not know? And what do you think is going to help you feel comfortable in making a better decision?
This is one of the most powerful questions a coach should have in their ready to go open-ended question roster, which is, tell me what you know about that.
Yeah.
That one is so valuable. And also another really important one is, why is that important to you? What about that? Why does that feel like the most important thing to you? Tell me what you know about that. Right? When was the last time a health consumer was ever asked what they know, or what they believe to be true, or what they like, even, there's power in bringing the client in as the expert. The idea is like, we have expertise in whatever our expertise is. So for me, it's metabolism, it might be strength training, it might be keto or whatever. And the client is also an expert at what they know, how they live their life, what they want to do, what they like, what they don't like. Call on the client's expertise.
No, I love that. I mean, there are so many just super powerful questions. What do you know about that? Tell me more about that. Why is this important? What would happen if, or is that really true?
Yeah.
What if it wasn't true? How could we make that not true? Right? These are all very open-ended questions that get the client thinking for themselves. My biggest issue with education today broadly is we are no longer teaching children and individuals on how to be critical thinkers.
Right.
I don't remember where I heard this, but it's so true. I think high school today, where, 50 years ago, high school was meant to prepare people for life, to be adults in a profession. It's now just preparing people to go to college, to sit in a classroom and listen to more people tell you what it is they know, rather than to think for themselves. So I just think there's a phenomenal role for health coaches to kind of bring that back, right? Which is to kind of train that critical thinking muscle for clients. And, I don't know about you, but early in my career, I didn't practice that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Well,
right?
That was the thing, right? I went to nutrition school to learn about nutrition so I could talk about nutrition to people, and it didn't work. I mean, that people have been hearing that in their ears for their whole lives, and look around, it's not working. Right.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
what's
I
interesting
mean,
too is like the thing about coaching is that I was having this conversation with somebody recently where it's like, do you think I should take like a life coaching course? Because I'm doing more life coaching, or, I don't really need to know how to coach because I work in the fitness industry. It's like, we all need to know how to coach.
right.
I think the fitness industry is due for a renaissance. It needs coaching in it. If you want to be a life coach or a career coach or business coach or whatever coach, coaching is coaching. It really is. Like, this course that I teach is not, there's no nutrition in it. There's no health science in it. A little tiny bit we had to for reasons for the board approval, but coaching is coaching is coaching. And one thing that's really wild that comes out of it is that folks who graduate the course will say, I actually communicate with my family better now.
Right.
Because it's purely communication.
Right.
It's not talking at people, it's talking with them.
When I was in sales, and I mean, I can't even tell you how many sales training programs I've taken in my career. I mean, I can't even count them, right? I don't have enough fingers and toes, but there's always a little bit of psychology in every sort of sales class that I've taken. And this sort of level 2, and really what coaching is rooted in psychology, although we're not psychologists, we're not therapists, right? We're not treating anything, but we can leverage the concepts of this to do what coaches do, which is motivation, right? It's about tapping into that motivation and driving it. And it's literally applicable anywhere. I've been able to take a little bit of everything I've learned. Anytime a little bit of psychology gets injected into any training I've done, I'm able to immediately apply it to my children, with my husband, my siblings, my mom, neighbors, everything, So when it's like, well, I don't know if I really need to learn to coach because this is really what I want to do. I'm sorry. If you have any interpersonal relationships with people you care about, this is an impactful tool for everybody.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Really? So tell me you've been teaching this class for the past almost 2 years now. What are some of the biggest things you've learned, your aha moments from coaching other coaches through this?
First of all, every time I teach it, I become a better coach because I get to re-engage with the art and science of coaching, with the curriculum that we've built. And I tell our students this, like, you're going to learn a lot of things here. You're going to learn so many different tools and lists of things and ideas, but there are fundamentals. There the open-ended questioning, reflecting back, summarizing, getting to goal setting, building accountability. That to me is like brass tacks. And then there's all these other like nuanced bits, like, evocative questioning and decisional balance and lots of terminology I'm just throwing around, but these are all coaching tools that we teach. And so I teach our students, like, start with the basics, just get the basics, because the basics are very, very impactful. And then as you keep practicing, sprinkle in this, try this on, just try it on to see how it feels to say it and see what kind of outcome you get. And I think what I learn from it every time is that the craft of coaching, like, you just never arrive. You're always going to be evolving how you do it. Which I just always think stuff like that is pretty fun. I just think it's fun to always be evolving and to be able to to perceive your evolution, to be able to perceive it, like to put your finger on it. Like 1 year ago, I would have coached this differently than I coach it now. Wow, what's it going to be like 1 year from now? And how can I, and this evolution of my coaching skills, how is this going to help me serve more people in more impactful ways? We talked a lot in this conversation about programming, which, again, staunch advocate for having a program and a methodology. And then the next thing you have to have is coaching chops.
Right.
And that only starts by learning the basics, practicing it a lot, and just being willing to kind of buckle up for this like evolution. I don't know.
No, I agree. And as as our admissions director, I make sure every person who wants to know about our institute understands that there's 2 programs and they do 2 different things. And this is why they're both just super important, and that they really do build on each other. And the combination of these two programs will have you emerge an extraordinarily well-crafted coach, well-trained coach. Do you have to take both? No, you don't have to. Again, the health coaching realm is one in which there's really not a whole lot of rule or regulation. Quite frankly, there's none. Right? So we've got our core course and we've got our level 2 course. And it's not that our core course isn't complete. It is. They learn the basics of everything within coaching, but what you don't have is that live experiential opportunity to practice with your peers, because it's your peers that are going to be able to say, wow, I would have gone in a totally different direction. I love the way you did that. Or, it gives you the opportunity to have that collegial, collaborative experience to be able to view the way other people handle certain situations, to be able to get advice when you feel a little bit stumped, because there are certain aspects of that rubric that aren't always natural for everybody. And I think it's super helpful to practice them and get feedback and have the opportunity to practice it again. So these things are really, they go hand in hand. I think they're extraordinarily important, but I do think sometimes people need to take it one step at a time. All right, first I'm going to get this chunk done. And then I'm going to get out and practice a little bit. And I'm going to really get my arms around what I think I need to practice most and what I really want to lean into. And then I can take level 2 from a place that I kind of equate it to, rather than going from your bachelor's to your master's all in one fell swoop, instead of getting out and practicing, what it is you went to school for to begin with, where you get your bachelor's, get out and work for maybe a year or whatever, and then get your master's to really just hone your craft. I kind of view that in the same realm, but practice is everything. So whether you're learning it in real time with your clients or whether you're doing it within the scope of a program, I think the benefit of our level 2 course, I just don't think there's any replacement for that collaborative, collegial environment.
There's not. There's no way to become a better coach than to practice. It's the only way. And to your point, it's like, you can do that with your clients. We are all practicing with our clients. Like, make no mistake. But practice with your peers. And truly, it's so fun to watch, because week 1 of the level 2 course, we do these breakout rooms. And it's like, okay, you're going to go into a breakout room and you're going to practice coaching. And they're like, but we haven't learned how to do it yet. And I'm like, well, you learned one thing, week 1 in the course is goal setting and implementing action. So it's like, okay, so pretend you're a coach. Like, no, pretend you are a coach. Your client, you just get your client to set a goal and then connect an accountability plan. Just start with that. Don't worry about if it's perfect or not. And the nervousness and the shyness that we see in week 1, by week 12, forget it. Every one of like what I would call the compulsories of a coaching conversation. There's no script, by the way, for a coaching conversation. As I've said, it's client led, but there are sort of some compulsories or some foundational, I guess, pieces that are good to have, and they're nailing them. And when I get these ones and then I have to grade against the rubric, it's like, check, 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 check. Look at 12 weeks. And it's in this breakout room. To your point, I think, is like, you're with your peers. It's a safe place. There's no judgment because we're all learning. And when you're in the breakout room, we have a coach, we have a client role playing, and then you have all the other people watching. And every single person in that room is learning, whether they're playing the client or playing the coach or just sitting and listening. That immersion into practicing, it's crazy how you can switch on your coaching chops in a short period of time.
Well, and here's the thing. When we talk about the client-led session, letting the client tell you what they want to talk about, that takes confidence. I think the tendency for a coach to want to lead, to a certain degree, comes from their own insecurity, because they want to be able to control the situation within the realm that they feel comfortable. Versus the more experience you have and the more well-trained you are, the more comfortable I think you are to sit back, relax, and let the client lead, because you've got the confidence to hang in there and provide the safe space, benefit, and what have you to the client in that session.
It does take a lot of confidence. What's really cool is when you build confidence there, it's so wild, because we don't teach business or anything about that in this course, but people will leave the course with imposter syndrome having vanished because they have confidence. Now I'm ready to go to business, even though we didn't talk about it. But just as an anecdote, every now and then in this level 2 course, I get somebody who will email me and say, you know what, this course isn't for me because this won't work with my clients. This thing that you're doing won't work with my clients. I'm like, oh, tell me about that. Like, who are your clients? My clients just need to be told what to do. I'm like, couldn't disagree more, but here's your money back. Have a nice day. Like, I just,
then they're not coaching.
Our disbelief a little bit. That's a little bit of a holdover from old school fitness culture, which I get it. I did it. I do think I would love coaches listening to warm to the idea of the client-led relationship if you're not there already, and know that takes practice. And to Laura's point, it requires a certain amount of confidence, but how do you get confident in anything? By practicing it. So
I love it. So 2021, despite all the nonsense that's happened this year, it sounds to me like net was a great year for you. So what's up next for Erin Power or Eat Simple?
Well, I think I'm going to take some of the advice of some of the many amazing humans we've interviewed on this podcast. I'm ready to bring somebody into my business, but not as a coach. I think it's going to be kind of a project manager kind of role. For example, I just checked this. I have this Google form. Okay. I have a Google form where I collect testimonials from past clients. There's 184 in there that I've never looked at or used or leveraged in any way. First of all, I should probably be looking at that because that's a nice thing to know. It's nice to know what you're never looked at it. Just opened it up the other day, like, oh, 184 entries. That's good. Well, there's something I can do with that. My group program, I think my little group program around twice a year, this 30-day program, I think it could be so awesome. Awesome. I don't know. That's the only word I can think of to use. I think I could help hundreds more people a time in each round. I think I could have it be more interactive but truly that's the question, just getting it out there more. And I don't have the bandwidth because I'm doing a lot of other fun things. So whenever I open enrollment into my group program, it's like, oh my gosh, the reboot's opening. It's open. Oh my gosh, sign up. And then it's like a week before it starts. And I'm lucky to get 75 or 80 people. Imagine if I actually was more intentional about that enrollment effort, right? Then I could have hundreds of people, which would be so amazing. And I think that group program I know that group program is a really nice opportunity to almost like on-ramp people into coaching relationships. I usually convert some of these group program people into one-on-one clients, which is my favorite people to work with. They've already spent 30 days learning my methodology. Now we're going to get into a coaching relationship. Holy moly, forget it. You're off to the races. It'd be really rewarding, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So I need somebody to come in to own these projects, like take these testimonials, do something with them, own the reboot, own the metabolic reboot, build it, set it up so that people will want to enroll in it, market it better than I'm doing. So I think there's a pretty good project manager role to be had there, and honestly, a pretty busy one. And I'm leaning toward also maybe working with a branding agency. Not a branding, but just like brand identity. I just need to get more clear on, I just want to gain some clarity. I think I'm at this point where a lot of old stuff I think that I was doing needs to come away, and I just need to drop into some more crystal clarity based on who I love and don't love working with. And getting an outside eye on that would be great, because I've literally built everything myself. I mean, I come from a marketing background, so I have an aptitude for that. But at this point, it's like I need an outside eye to look at this because I'm just too close to it. So that's, I think, where I'm going to go this year.
Well, and given that both of us are in a enviable position of doing what we love in coaching people, but also having sort of synergistic other careers that we love doing, right? We both sort of stumbled into our roles here at Primal Health Coach Institute, and I don't want to give that up. I'm unwilling to give up either. I'm unwilling to give up my role at Primal Health Coach Institute, and I'm unwilling to give up my coaching practice. It's about finding a way to do both without compromising the other and without compromising the growth. That's the hard part, right? That's the balance. So I love that even though marketing and branding is kind of what you've done professionally, that's not really where you want to spend your time. And it would probably be beneficial to have some outside eyeballs. So I love that. I can't wait to see how it all comes together for you.
Me too.
Yeah. So tell people, if they don't already know, where they can find you if they want to follow you and see what you're up to.
Yeah, I think the best place would be Eat Simple Erin on Instagram. So it's eat.simple.erin. That's honestly the only place I really hang out. I have a website, eatsimple.ca. Maybe due for a redesign soon. We'll see. But check me out on Instagram, hang out with me there, and ask me anything about coaching, about business, about anything at all. I'm open to it.
I love it. Awesome. Hey, congratulations on an amazing 2021 for you. Fantastic.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.